Hey guys, it's Sean again with the Heavy Shield. Thanks for joining me for my seventh episode. I'm going to be talking about ways to stay busy, physically, emotionally, mentally, ways to stay engaged and not just find yourself with some what we call in the military white space. Some just nothing to do, um, and just you know that kind of tends to lead to dark spaces, marinating on bad things that happened. Find yourself staring at the empty bottle. Some I'm going to be talking about some ways that have worked for me, and make some suggestions that have helped with some other folks I know, and will hopefully help you guys stay engaged physically and mentally, and emotionally. So one thing that I kind of grew up on to stay, keep myself busy physically, especially with my hands. I can't just, even today, I can't sit in front of my laptop or a TV and watch a movie or TV show, and not do something with my hands. It's kind of tough for me. I grew up on Legos and plastic model kits. Back in the day when I grew up on Legos, they didn't have all these Star Wars sets and Ninjago and Avengers and all this stuff, and you didn't have directions. You just got a bunch of uh, cool looking pieces, and you had to slap them together and use your imagination to build shit. Um, but I will say, I still have carried my love of Legos from a kid to an adult. Especially I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I've got a boatload of Star Wars Lego sets. So that's one thing that I've managed to maintain as a kid, is both my love of Star Wars and Legos, and then also plastic model kits. My first model that I ever put together was a Ford 1987 Ford Thunderbird. It was a NASCAR model, I think, back then. It was driven by Bill Elliott because my mom drove a '87 Ford Thunderbird, and I loved that car. I managed to find the model in a store, talk to my mom, which was easy talk, into buying me the model, put it together, and slapped all the cool decals on it and everything. It was a lot of fun, and so that's one thing that I've been able to maintain throughout my adulthood, is my love of putting things together with my hands. Of course, as I've gotten older, my tastes have changed more to sci-fi stuff, as opposed to just cars. When I was a kid, it was Mustangs and Camaros and movie cars and all this kind of stuff. um, a couple. I've got these days. I got a couple M4 Sherman models that I've built, and besides just building them, I love adding little details onto it, that may or may not have come with the kit, and painting little um, personalized touches that the vehicle crews might have painted themselves on, if it were a real tank or whatever. Um, I've built a 1/72nd scale F4 Corsair from World War II. It's one of my favorite aircraft in the world. Love that thing. It's the Marine version, USMC version. Currently in the middle of building a 1/48th scale, so a little much larger, um, F4 Phantom 2. I'm currently in the process of building that. And one thing that's always captivated my attention with models, and especially Lego, is it's kind of if you've ever studied any kind of Zen Buddhism, or Taoism. A lot of those philosophies kind of talk about focusing on the moment, not focusing on what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. Focus on the today, where you're at now, and that's kind of the approach. That's uh, whether I whether I knew it, I didn't know it at the time, but since I've kind of read up on some of this Taoism and Zen Buddhism, I realized that, hey, that kind of does apply to this, to model building, and or building Legos, is staying in that moment. Yeah, you especially with models and today's Lego sets, you know what's going to look like at the end when you're done building it. But it's when you're in this step 42 of 176, you're putting one piece together with another, and you may not quite know exactly what it's gonna how this fits into the larger picture yet, but you're just focusing on putting this block on this block or this piece next to this piece, and it's the journey as opposed to the destination. It's one of those things. It's you're focused on just fitting this piece with this piece, and the kind of the anticipation of how it's all going to fit together at the end, and you can sit back once it's done and look and go, hey, there were those two pieces that I had no idea what was going to happen when I put those two together, and that's how they fit into the big picture. It's kind of satisfying at the end, but it's really satisfying in the moment. Just again, like I said, staying in that moment and not worrying about all the bullshit that's going on in the world, all the retarded shit going on with people getting canceled, and um, are you gonna lose a part in a movie, or people yell at you on Twitter or Facebook or whatever for saying the wrong thing because you didn't vote the right way. Fuck all that shit, right? Put all that shit to the wayside. You should anyways. You do you. Uh, but this is a great way of, uh, am I going to make rent this month? I mean, shit like that's kind of really important. But it, it's a good way of setting all these your normal day to day worries, and just for a few minutes a day, an hour a day, setting all your worries aside, and just focusing on something, that will ultimately bring you pleasure, not at the risk of everything else, but again, just moderation in all things, grasshopper, that kind of thing. But again, models and the Legos, and for me, that's been one way that I've found that I can just focus on the now and what I'm doing right then and there. Will I put these two pieces right together correctly, and then screw everything else. Um, Something else is gardening. I recently got into that thanks to my brother, Josh. He's got a lot of property. So he's recently, with the help of me, started a garden in his backyard. I helped him plow up a bunch of land, bunch of strips of land, using an old 1950s Japanese tractor, towing behind a plow. Turned up a bunch of earth. We went and got planting dirt, and threw that in there, mixed it up again, bought a bunch of seeds, and staked and roped off using 550 guts to delineate the sections between like carrots and cucumbers and summer squash and zucchini and kale. That's his thing, not mine. Fuck kale. Um, it, but it's again, it's something else that I've been able to do with my brother. Again, for me, it's doing something with a family member, my best friend. Some of you may be able to do it by yourself and enjoy doing it all by yourself. And again, it's just something to just focus on, just getting your hands dirty. Putting some seeds into the ground, and one day you'll have some fresh vegetables or fruit or whatever you're planting. We also planted a couple blueberry bushes and a peach tree. So it's kind of again rewarding to do that kind of activity, and knowing that one day soon, you'll see the sometimes literally fruits of your labor, and it's something that you've created, something I've helped create. I've put into the dirt, and boom, a few months later, there's some carrots. We can throw those in salads, or use cooking, whatever. Just eat them raw, whatever. Um, so it's something I'm helping to create, and uh, something productive, that I've been able to do. Another thing that I've been able to do, again with help of my brother, if you're noticing a kind of common theme lately, doing a lot of stuff with my family lately. Uh, Doing whatever you can do with your family, that's a huge thing. It's great to do things by yourself. That's one of my favorite things to do. When I was active duty, one of my favorite things to do on leave or weekends or whatever is do absolutely nothing and just be by myself, get away from everybody else, read a book, watched a bunch of movies. I'm a huge movie file. Um, I've always read, but I'm a voracious reader. I've been reading since I was like 3.5, 4 years old. Um, but it's in certain mindsets, like mine included, and a lot of other people in the same situation, it's also very helpful to do things with other people. It helps you, reintegrate and learn to interact with people, relearning social skills instead of just being a fucking hermit and or a barracks rat, like we used to call them. So besides wood or gardening, my brother's a carpenter in a local union. So he's got so many woodworking tools and table saws and all that. He's got any given day in his garage. He's got about 50 slats of wood and 2x4s and all kinds of lumber, sanders, electric and manual and planers and routers and all like every kind of tool you could think to use to do woodworking. So I've recently kind of started getting into woodworking. When I first moved back to South Carolina to be closer to family, I was living with him in his home for a few months, and I didn't have a job. So while he was off at work, he said, "Hey, dude, here's how to use a couple tools. Here's how to use the table saw, the sander, the planer, the router, all this." He taught me some basic stuff, and he goes, "While I'm gone at work one day, just come out here and do something, cut something, even if it looks like shit. At least do something, stay engaged, try and create something." And so luckily I took him up on that offer, and he lives out on a private airfield uh, here in South Carolina, and one of his common complaints was he had this. There's one main road it's actually a taxiway near the airstrip, but then there's a dirt road behind his house that has no signs or anything, and a lot of times either the UPS guy or the U.S. Postal Service guy would always miss his house, or they'd say, "Oh, we couldn't find your address, so um, we still have your package." And he did have one street sign with his street address out front by the runway, by the taxiway, but it was old and it was decrepit and being split by moss and molds and all this stuff. So I decided I'm going to make him a couple new signs. So uh, I took some of the wood scraps he had, and I cut some planks to cut and route and smooth and then spray paint white, and then got some reflective decals from Home Depot and put his address on it, his street address, and then spray lacquered it, and then put another piece of wood behind it for a stake. And I made two of those, one for the front and one for the back, and that was a year and a half ago, and he still got them up. He loves them. It was just something I could do for him for putting me up and helping me move out here, and it was something that I really enjoyed doing. I found I really enjoyed. It took me about 3 days to do, all told. And of course, it wasn't just straight labor. They're really simple, but it kind of got me interested. And of course, since then, he's helped me do some other projects around his house. Making slatted doors to cover up his water heater and stuff like that. So I've been helping him do cutting a lot of wood and sanding and planing, and piecing together, dovetails and all this stuff. I feel like real woodworker, like Ron Swanson, out there, doing some man shit, cutting some wood and putting together and building something, creating something that's gonna last, and it can help, make his home look great. So that woodworking is something else, and you may not have the facilities that I have access to, but if something like that kind of interests you, and you may know somebody or find somebody that has the kind of tools, or just buy some simple stuff, simple tools. It doesn't take a lot of power tools to do some woodworking and basic signage and stuff like that. So that's one thing that kind of really helped me stay engaged. And again, it's another kind of Zen thing. It's like I know how this wants I know how I want this to turn out and look at the end, but it's the process, going through it and sanding it and making all those cuts, and is it going to turn out the way I want it to? Kind of was kind of a little adventure, and again, something else to help keep me engaged. Uh, Something else, not so much hobby wise. It's more more activity related, hiking and camping. I know some of you that if you've been in, especially feels like Army, Marine Corps, um, active duty for a long time, especially in combat arms or combat support, like I was, as a medic. You've probably had more than your fair share of hiking and camping. But there are ways to do it that are actually fun. And you're not going on a forced, 20-mile ruck march with, 80 pounds on your back, and, uh, you know, you're not worried about ambushes and all that kind of stuff, right? The Appalachian Trail kind of runs through Georgia and then through the through New England area. And my brother has been a huge fan of the Appalachian Trail. He's done a lot of section hiking along the AT, mostly through northern parts of Georgia, mostly through North Carolina, and some into Tennessee. That kind of this southeastern kind of stretch of it. And he was a former light infantry with 10th Mountain as mortarman, but somehow he was able to maintain his love of the outdoors and hiking and camping. But mostly what I've done with him is real light stuff. I mean, we're right off the AT. We're at a campsite. We go out there for a 2 or 3 day weekend. Maybe spend it, a night or two. Um, we build a fire and watch some caveman TV. Just sitting back and staring at the fire and shooting a shit or just zoning out. Just a couple weekends ago, he and I went to a section of the AT up in northern Georgia. Weather was The temperature was great. It was like 71, but it was super super high humid because it's upstate Georgia. But it was he and I and his girlfriend's son and his girlfriend's son's brother, just four dudes going up there, camping out for a couple days. Um, there was a water source super close by, a stream. We'd go down there and get fresh water. He's got a pump filter. Um, made a campfire. I could literally kick a rock and hit the AT, and I could kick a rock in the other direction and hit his car. So we didn't have to hump a shit ton of weight super deep into the bush. It's right off a dirt road. We brought a cooler with hot dogs and some condiments and big old box of chips, and I even brought a couple MREs that I managed to acquire. And we had a great time. Someone forgot to bring a deck of cards, so guess what we did? That big box of chips that Josh brought, we dumped all the chips out, and we cut up the cardboard into appropriate sizes. He happened to have a ballpoint pen in his vehicle, and so we made our own deck of cards, 52 cards, and four dudes just standing around a tree stump next to a campfire, playing poker, and we had a great time. We got away from civilization. We weren't where we live. We're out in the middle of the woods, super quiet, and we just hung out, and it was a great time. We weren't worried about work and oh man, did I do those reports, and I got to check my emails, and nobody was checking their phones every 5 seconds because we didn't have reception. So that's a great thing. For those of you guys that are that are married to your fucking phones and glued to that goddamn screen like a zombie, put that shit away. I looked at my phone once the entire weekend, and that was only because I was expecting some messages from my first sergeant, my reserve unit. That was it. And otherwise, it stayed in the car. Didn't even look at it. It was great. Just turn all that shit off. Turn off the outside world, and just focus on. Oh man, look at those fucking fireflies, or flying around, and hey, let's walk down to the stream and get some more water for coffee because we just woke up and just rolled out of my fart sack. Um, so it was a lot of fun. And if you do like actually hiking, if you live here in the southeast, again the AT, you might have to travel a few hours to get there, but if you can get away for 2 3 days, the AT is a great trail. There's all kinds of places you can cut in and cut back out, or just find a park in your area. There's a park about 10 minutes away from my house, um, where it's got a bunch of walking trails and horse trails and stuff, and even that's great. Just parking and just going for a walk for an hour. Stop. There's a couple. There's a spot. There's a couple park benches. My brother and I've gone there quite a few times. We make some sandwiches, um, go for a little walk, and stop around noon and have a couple sandwiches, a couple bottles of Gatorade or whatever, and keep walking. Um, and it's just a way to disconnect from civilization, uh, and just kind of recenter your chi, find your zen, kind of thing. Another thing that I like to do, and my brother also likes to do, is shooting. And anyone that's been in the military, especially uh, anywhere near combat arms units, um, being in the army, it doesn't matter if you're infantry or you're medic or finance. We all still have to shoot and qualify. And probably 10 out of 10 folks I've talked to that's been in the military, one of their favorite things they've done in the military is being able to shoot. Now, 0 out of 10 of those folks, their favorite thing to do is clean their weapons afterwards, weapons maintenance. But for some folks, that's just as much fun as shooting. So a lot of folks I know, they either like buying weapons and building weapons. They might buy an upper receiver here or lower receiver there, and then put together pistol grips, butt stocks, scopes, foregrips, all this kind of the cool guy shit. And some of them do that as a way of making money, just like somebody buys a house, renovates it and flips it, and makes a profit. I know a lot of guys that do that with weapons, and just as many just do that because they like working on weapons. They like tweaking the scopes and the trigger pulls and all this kind of stuff. Me, I'm not so much into building weapons. I do have one rifle. It's a DPMS Oracle Panther Arms. I think they're defunct now. They got bought out, I think, by Winchester or somebody. But it's basically an M110, 7.62 or 308 semi-automatic, and then also have a M&P 45. My brother's got a Smith and Wesson 5.56 rifle, and he's got a pistol 9 mil. It's a Sig Sauer. Loves that thing. It's a little compact thing. So a lot of times he's got a little half-ass range, kind of out in the woods, back behind his house, like 3 minutes away from his house. So we'll go shoot each other's weapons. And another thing, getting back to the woodworking, we used a bunch of his wood and tube and dimensional lumber, and we built a framework, with stand and legs and everything to hang paper targets off of. And then there's all kinds of stuff out there to shoot, tires and bottles and stuff like that. I think the farthest away I've been able to shoot, especially my rifle, it's a medium to long range rifle, the way it's set up now, is about 80 to 90 meters, so it's not super long, but it's a lot of great fun to just go out there and just blaze away, or just snipe at targets. Of course, not so much lately because so many assholes are out there hoarding all this fucking ammo. Every time it hits the shelves, they're just going in there sweeping it all up, and they're just hoarding all this shit. So, just as an aside, please realize, if you've got a huge hoard of ammo and you're still continuing to go to stores that sell it and you're still buying it, just realize you're fucking everybody else. Just please realize you're part of the problem. That's all I'm going to say. So, shooting is another thing. that I enjoy doing. A lot of folks enjoy doing. And if you can get past the, I know. Even though I'm still in the military, I'm in the reserves. We still have to qualify once in a while, and if I have to go out and qualify, um, I'm always one of the last guys that'll go up in zero and then go over to qual, because it's the sounds of all these people shooting still kind of gets me a little gun shy, a little nervous, a little sweaty. Kicks My PTSD kicks in a little bit, but once I get into the rhythm of it, especially the first few sounds, even if I'm a safety and I hear controls from the tower. Rotate your selector switch from safe to semi and watch your lane. That first bang always gets me. It always makes me jump. If I'm up there in the first couple iterations, I'm instead of trying to focus on just my breathing and cheek weld and position and trigger squeeze and all that, I'm just hearing bang, 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 and I'm kind of fucking jumping. Um, so it takes me a few iterations to get in the rhythm of that. But if I'm just out in the woods shooting by myself or with one other person, two other people, I'm cool with it. That might be kind of a stumbling block for you guys. But again, depends on your depth or whatever you're suffering with PTSD. Maybe gunshots and explosions don't bother you. But again, it's still just a great way to get out there and just zone in on one thing and not focus on all this other shit going on. So that's pretty much the pretty much all I got. Two things left. I got one thing is I want to give a huge thanks to Greg Perkins. He's a buddy of mine, long time buddy of mine. Known him quite a few years. Back when I used to write for a tabletop wargaming company called DreamPod 9 for a game called Heavy Gear Blitz. He was the art director. He did a lot of the new art for the books, and he painted all the new miniatures to showcase in the books and magazines and websites and stuff like that. He's an architect with a huge firm up in Canada. When I first started this channel, he saw the link on Facebook and he said, "Hey man, anything you need, love what you're doing. Glad to hear you're doing great. Uh, Anything you need, graphics wise, let me know." So I said, "Well, hey, the logo I did for the channel back in the day, it looked like a drunk fourth grader did it with MS Paint, and that's pretty much what happened." So I said, "Well, I'd love for this to be churched up a little bit, made it look professional." And boom, he took it, and within a week, that's the logo you see now on my channel's website or main site, and here in the bottom corner. So thanks to Greg Perkins for that. Outstanding dude. Appreciate it so much. Love you, brother. And then the last thing is hopefully here in the next few weeks I'll be posting a couple interviews, or at least an interview. I have a couple people I want to interview. I put feelers out to, one of whom is a lieutenant in my unit. He's a mental health professional on the civilian side. Worked with a lot of soldiers and soldiers who have deployed and come back home. So he's got a lot of experience with PTSD and stuff like that. So that's one person that I'm planning on interviewing. And then the other one is maybe with my brother, as a vet, things he's gone through, some tips and tricks and pointers from his side of the fence. And then that's kind of one thing I want to do throughout the upcoming history of this channel is sprinkle in some interviews with some other folks and get some other viewpoints and suggestions and ideas of how to combat PTSD from someone besides just myself. So hopefully those will be coming up soon. Hopefully you guys stick around to see those. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe and like the video. That just helps YouTube's algorithms push this out to more folks in YouTube if they're looking for similar content. This helps these videos get out to more and more folks. So again, hope you guys like the video today, and thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye.